In this Framer tutorial, I'll show you how to build a scroll-activated navbar where the navigation links automatically highlight as you scroll through different sections of your page. This technique works really well for long pages because users can always see where they are and they can easily jump between sections, which greatly improves the overall user experience. So let me show you how you can do that. I created a very simple page with a couple of sections that are each colored differently and have different heights. So we have a hero section, features, testimonials, pricing, contact, and footer. Okay, so going back to the top, this is the navbar that we want to work with. And this is made up of 4 links, which are components, and they look something like that. Let me actually bring in the light mode here. Sorry, that got way too bright. So we have an active variant, which is the primary, and it has a different background. We have an inactive, which is what we're going to use by default. And then we have an inactive hover. So when we hover on an inactive label, we get a slightly different background. So if we go ahead and preview this inactive link, this is what it looks like when we hover with our mouse over it. Okay, now let's go back to our page. Let's get rid of that light mode and let's start animating this navbar. So currently, if we preview this, it's just a navbar that's fixed on the top and that's always present. But it doesn't do anything. So I can click on these links and it currently doesn't do anything. The very first thing we want this sidebar to do is to link to the specific sections inside the page. For that, we're going to need to select each section, scroll down, and in the right sidebar, we need to scroll down a bit until we find scroll section. And we're going to give this a name. We're going to call this one, for instance, hero, and we're going to scroll down, select the next section. Yeah, we're going to call it features, and so on. We'll do the same thing for the rest of the sections. So this is pricing, and this is contact. Great. And footer, we don't really need to give that any names. So now we can select each individual link in the navbar, and we can link it. We can click here. We can select the link to home, and then we can choose the section we want to link to. And that looks something like this. So for the features link, we're going to select the features element. And let me bring that up so you can see it. Testimonials. We're going to link to home and then select testimonials. Pricing, we'll do the same thing. And then contact, we'll do the exact same thing. And this is possible because when I created this menu link component, I created a link label variable and also a link variable that allows us to work with all of these component instances. Cool. So now if we preview this desktop, you can see that clicking on these links will smoothly scroll us to the corresponding section. Nice. Now, the problem that we have now is that this navbar is always visible. It's fixed to the top, sure, but it's always visible even when the hero section is in view. And we want to hide it when that happens, because here's the logic. When the hero section is visible, that usually contains some kind of navigation already. Yeah, that's what web design is usually done. You have the big header, the main website header at the top, which contains the navbar, the navigation, etc. So I would like to display this navbar only after the hero section is no longer in view. And we can do that very easily with a scroll animation. So select the navbar And in the sidebar, click on Effects. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Select Scroll, and then Scroll Animation. Now, these are the properties that we're going to use. So the trigger is when a section is in view. And that section is the Features section. Okay, so as we scroll down and the Features section is in view, that's when we're going to show this navbar. And we have a couple of different options here. Viewport basically allows us to choose when that trigger is going to happen. So I'm going to leave this on top for now, and I'll come back to this and explain what it happens. We're going to set replay to yes because we want this to go in both ways, right? So we want this to kind of scroll or fade into view, but also fade out when we reach the hero section. And then the preset, I'm going to choose slide in from the top. Okay, so let's give this a preview and see what's going on here. So right now, that navbar is hidden. And if I scroll down, as soon as I reach the Features section, the navbar slides in from the top. And as soon as the hero section starts to get visible, the navbar is hidden. And you can see that here more clearly, okay? But the problem that we're having is that if I'm like all the way down a page, yeah, the navbar kind of gets hidden randomly. So why is that? Well, that's because this scroll animation has an exit effect. We don't want that. We just want the enter effect, okay? And that will essentially take care of that problem. Now, the navbar will stay on. It will be displayed all the time, regardless of the scroll direction, as long as the hero section is not visible. But as soon as we reach the hero section, that navbar gets hidden. Now, I mentioned this property here, viewport. Okay, what exactly is this? Essentially, in this configuration, this animation takes place when the top of the Features section reaches the top of the viewport. If I'm going to change this to center, that animation will take place when the top of the Features section reaches the center of the viewport, which is around these lines right here. So watch closely. Yeah, this right here is the top of the Features section. And as soon as that reaches the top, or the center of the viewport, that's when the animation happens, right? And if I set this animation here to bottom, well, it's exactly the same principle. When the top of the Features section reaches the bottom of the viewport, which it has right now, that animation takes place. But if I make the viewport smaller here, right, I can simulate that effect. For this purpose, for this animation, we'll just stick with the top of the viewport. Cool. So what do we have so far? We have a navbar that only shows up when the hero section is no longer in view. Cool, that's exactly what we want. And then clicking on the links here will take us to different parts of the page. Now, the only thing that's left to do is highlight these links as we're scrolling through their respective sections. So for instance, when the Features section is in view, we need to highlight the Features link. And then when the Testimonials section reaches the top, that's when we highlight the Testimonials link, and so on and so forth. And we do that very easily, again, with some scroll animations. So let's select the first one, Features, and let's go right here in the sidebar under Effects and I'm gonna choose scroll and then scroll variant. Can you see that? Now you can. Scroll variant. The trigger is when a section is in view. We're gonna keep the same viewport value. Replay set to yes. Section, we're gonna select features. And 2, we're gonna select the variant to active. So this is what happens. We scroll down. Yeah, we can see the navigation, and because the top of the features section reached the top of the viewport, the features link is now highlighted, and it's highlighted by switching it to its active variant. Okay, if we double click this again, remember we have an inactive variant and then we have an active one. Cool. Let's do the same for testimonials. We'll go to effects, scroll variant. We'll select section in view. Section is going to be testimonials. Variant, we're going to set it to active. Pricing, we'll do the same thing. Effects, scroll variant, section in view, pricing, set it to active, and then finally contact, effects, scroll variant, section in view, contact, set it to active. So let's preview this. Scroll down, we see the navbar, we click on testimonials. Now that's highlighted. We scroll down, we see the pricing is now highlighted. We go to the contact section, and now this is highlighted. So everything works well so far. You can see that as we're scrolling away from them, they're switching back to their inactive state. But one problem is that when we're going past a certain section, the corresponding link stays highlighted. And that's normal because we didn't tell Framer otherwise. So let's fix that. We'll go to features. We'll open up this scroll animation here, and then we're gonna click on add section. And here we're basically gonna say, when it reaches the testimonials, we're gonna set it to inactive. So when the next section is in view, let's deselect it, or let's switch this link back to inactive. So let's do the same here. So when the testimonial section comes into view, yeah, we're gonna set this link to active. But when the next section, which is pricing, comes into view, we're gonna set it to inactive. Pricing, we're gonna do the same thing, except we'll select contact here, set to inactive. And then for contact, we can just leave it blank because we don't have any other section past that. So by doing that, we now have links that are only highlighted when their corresponding section is within view. And we can, still click these. And it's gonna work just fine. And there you have it. Remix link is in the description if you want to explore this further. With that said, thanks for watching. And if you want more tutorials like this, drop a comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.